Thanks for joining this webcast today. My name is Kristen Malzone. I am the Community Manager for the CA Security Community. And today's community webcast topic is what's new in version 12.9 of CA Privileged Identity Manager. Today's presenter is Mike Delea, who is the Head of Product Management for Privileged Identity Manager. He's going to go through a presentation and we'll open it up for live Q&A at the end of this webcast. But you can ask questions during his presentation if you'd like via the Q&A window in WebEx or the chat window, and we'll be happy to address those when we get a chance. But if you'd like to wait until the end of the call and ask your question over the phone and unmute your line, you can do that as well. So let's go ahead and get started. Thanks so much for doing this today, Mike. I'll pass it on to you.
Okay, thanks, Kristen. Good morning, everyone. Good afternoon. As Kristen said, my name is Mike Delea. I'm Product Management for CA Privileged Identity Manager, formerly ControlMinder. And the goal or the purpose of this webcast is to talk about the new capabilities that we delivered in version 12.9 at the end of last month. Just a quick agenda overview here. I'm going to start by giving a summary of the new capabilities that we have in this release, and then I will get into a little more detail of each one of those with a feature review, followed by an architecture review. For some of the current customers that are joining this webcast, I'm just going to touch on this briefly. There's a couple things that I want to highlight for you with respect to the overall architecture. And then I will end with a summary, and then open it up to any Q&A that you may have. So, again, as Kristen mentioned, if you have any questions along the way, feel free to enter them into chat, and I will be sure to pause from time to time and see if anybody has any questions that I can answer. Okay, so I know that we may have some people on the call here that aren't current customers of the product itself, so I'm just going to spend a few minutes and talk about the key challenges with privileged identity management and what our solution can provide, and then I'll jump into the summary of the new changes or new capabilities we've introduced. So, as many of these public breaches that you see out there in the news would demonstrate, dealing with privileged identities is a very difficult and complex issue. And the problem comes from the fact that, you as an organization are providing all-powerful access to your employees who are using the root account or admin accounts, right? And so they essentially have the keys to the kingdom, no real segregation of duties. And on top of that, layered in, there's just a complete lack of accountability, right? These people are using these accounts, very poor log integrity. It's hard to identify who's doing what with these accounts, right? And when you add those two things together, it leads to significant risk to your organization. And then when you talk about virtualization, it just magnifies the problem even further, right? Because now you're giving additional administrators the same type of ability to make significant changes to your virtual environments, all the while still having that little accountability to figure out who's doing what. So privileged identity management can help you address essentially 5 primary challenges. Number one, it can enable compliance. Helps you track the individuals and what they're doing with these privileged accounts. It helps you stop targeted attacks. Some examples would be our fine-grained access controls can help really prevent and severely limit what can be done if somebody were to get a hold of these privileged account credentials. It also leads you to secure your virtual environments as well as move to the cloud more securely. And then it helps mitigate insider threats. So if somebody inside your organization is using an admin or a root account, you can limit what they can do through the concept of least privilege access and segregation of duties, so that even though they're using an all-powerful privileged account, they can only perform the activities that are necessary for their role, nothing outside of that. And to help you with these challenges, our product essentially has 5 components. It starts at the top with shared account management. This is essentially, password vaulting of these privileged account credentials, enabling users to check in and check out passwords, automatically log in without ever even seeing the account, and even providing emergency or break glass access as needed. Then we take it a level deeper where we provide the host-based fine-grained access controls. So this is, least privilege access for what the users can do while using those elevated privileged accounts. We have user activity reporting and session recording for compliance purposes, so it's tracking all of the activities that these users are doing with these accounts. Unix authentication bridging, this is being able to centrally manage Unix passwords rather than using distributed password files. And then lastly, virtualization security. So this is taking the same capabilities that I just touched upon and extending it to a virtualized environment. So in terms of our latest release, Privileged Identity Manager 12.9 was released at the end of April, and there are some key capabilities that we introduced. A lot of it was focused on, most of it was focused on the shared account management aspect of our solution, as well as the auditing and session recording aspect of our solution. So the first capability we introduced was a new proxy configuration for shared account management, which increases the overall security to your organization and also helps with the usability for the end users and also for the administrators who are deploying the solution. Session recording for all of these proxy activities. Any privileged session launched through that proxy server configuration will be recorded, so increasing the overall auditability within your organization. The ability to terminate active sessions within your environment. So this is providing greater security, greater control for what's going on within your privileged sessions and giving you the ability to terminate a session should you feel that there is a risk there. And then lastly, extending the integration that we have with service desk solutions. So this is improving the overall connectivity and efficiency that you have within your organization as you're working with the two solutions, Privileged Identity Management as well as service desk solutions. So starting with the proxy configuration, this is I would say the key capability we introduced in this release. And what it's doing is that while an end user tries to automatically log into a target system, they do this through our user interface. Behind the scenes, it's routing that traffic through a proxy server or gateway, as we say, so that there is true isolation between that end user's desktop and the target system that they're accessing. Support multiple proxy servers, so for scalability reasons, you want to have several proxy servers configured in your environment. We support that configuration as well. And from an overall usability perspective, this is now all browser-based. So if an end user wants to access and automatically log into a target system through our solution, all they need is a web browser. And by doing so, it'll just open up, when they choose to connect to a target system, it'll just open up another tab within that browser, and then they can continue on and perform the work that they need to perform. This is enhancing the overall security. It's improving the usability by the browser-based experience, and also improving the deployability, which I'll touch on in the next slide. So as I mentioned, an end user can log into our Enterprise Management Console, the user interface itself, and if they want to automatically log into an endpoint or a target system, they can do so through our user interface. Behind the scenes, they're being routed through the shared account management proxy and connecting to the endpoints. In this release, we support RDP and SSH type of access. We no longer require any ActiveX on the end user's desktop. No RDP or SSH clients are required. So, for instance, PuTTY is no longer required on that user's desktop. And as you can see, the way we've highlighted the connection here, At no time is the end user's desktop actually communicating directly with that target system. So there's true isolation between the two components. Okay. The next capability that we introduced was session recording for all these proxy activities. So any session that is accessed through this proxy server, this configuration, can be recorded. We have DVR-like playback controls. You can fast forward, you can rewind through the session. We also allow, through tagging capabilities, we allow you to drill down a step further and specify which endpoints that you want to have to be recorded. It may be that you only want a subset of endpoints to be recorded rather than every single endpoint that you have within your environment. This enhances the overall auditability within your organization. It leads to compliance through this session recording monitoring capability, and overall reduces the risk to your organization. As part of this proxy configuration, we're giving security administrators the ability to search and find all active sessions, active privilege sessions that are going on within your organization, and we give you the ability to terminate any one of those sessions. So the security administrator can simply view a list of all active sessions, and they can, just by clicking a red X action button, can automatically disconnect that user from that session. And by disconnecting, it'll take that privileged account password and check it back into the vault. So from that point on, it is back to being secured. This improves the overall security of the solution and reduces the risk of unauthorized administrative access. And then lastly, we've taken a use case that existed in the previous release, and we've extended it out to support multiple other service desks. So the use case that we had, we integrated with one of our own service desk products called CA Service Desk. And the use case was if an administrator wanted to request access to a privileged account, within our user interface, you could prompt them to enter in a ticket ID. Once they did that behind the scenes, it would go ahead and make sure that that is a valid ticket ID before letting them proceed with that request. Managers can then, during the approval process, they can see a link to that service desk solution, and it'll bring them right to that ticket for review. So we've extended this to support additional service desks: EMC Remedy, ServiceNow, HP Service Manager, and another one of our CA products, CA Cloud Service Manager. And we will continue to extend on that and add additional service desks as we move forward. So this helps simplify the overall administration of account access and improves the overall efficiency as users are interacting with both of these systems together. So in terms of an architecture review, I know this diagram is probably hard to read over the screen, but the one thing that I wanted to point out here is that the new proxy component is an embedded component within your enterprise management server, which means that for existing customers, if you're going to upgrade, this is not going to require an additional installation. Right? This is going to be part of your enterprise management server upgrade. Through the load balancing, enterprise management load balancing configurations, and many of you have that today, each one of those load balancing servers will now also have a proxy component with them. And you can choose to use them together within your environment. So you can have multiple proxy servers. You can separate them by geographic region. If you wanted to, you can separate them and have each individual server be accessed for different types of logins like SSH or RDP. However you want to separate it, it's very flexible in terms of how you configure it. And also when we talk about the extended service desk integration, that also is an embedded component within our software. So it does not require any additional installation. Once you've upgraded, you can go to the system configuration screen and you'll see a new service desk configuration. You just enter in the connection parameters there to whichever service desk that you want to connect to, and from there you're on your way. So in summary, this release provides several benefits to you, the customer. Number one, we've made a lot of improvements or enhancements to the overall security of the product. By adding that proxy server configuration, we're isolating the endpoints from the end user's desktop, giving you the ability to have greater control over those privileged admin sessions with the ability to terminate sessions, active sessions at any time. Simplifying that employment through the elimination of the need to install any software on the client. A lot of our customers today had a jump server configuration where end users would remote connect into a jump server, and then from there they can connect into their endpoints. But with the introduction of this proxy configuration, you would no longer need that. So from a deployment perspective, it eliminates that component as well. The new session recording capability helps improve the overall idleability. As I mentioned, the full session is being recorded. And what I should say about that is what's actually being recorded is all the screen movements. So it's in addition to the keystrokes that the user is entering, it's any of the screen movements as well. And then lastly, improving the overall efficiency. So extending that service desk integration to what I would say are some of the most popular service desk solutions. I think this could be a benefit to all of our customers, where it just improves the overall operating efficiency, right? So you don't have to flip back and forth between the service desk solution and our user interface. You can have our solution go ahead and validate that ticket that you're working on, that you entered, is a valid ticket ID before allowing you to proceed with the request. And at this point, I'm going to open it up to any questions that you may have with anything that you've heard today.
Great, thanks, Mike. If anyone has any questions, you can unmute your line by pressing #6 or *6. You can also press the question button. It looks like a telephone with a question mark, and then I can unmute your line for you so you can ask a question. Or you can ask a question in the chat window or the Q&A window. If you didn't feel like asking a question today, you can also go ahead and ask one in the CA security community. I will post a link to that community in the chat window so that you can navigate to that and follow it if you're not already. All right, we have a question from Eric Lawson about RDP proxy, mapping devices and printers work, with a question mark.
Okay, so if you are using the proxy configuration and you're RDPing over to a Windows server, for example, whatever's on that server, you would have access to, and anything that you're performing on that target endpoint would be recorded, if that answers your question.
Okay, great. I'm just going to put up a quick poll question right now for everyone. If you could please answer that question while we're going through these questions. All right, it looks like we have another question, a follow-up question from Eric. He said, yep, that answers his question. His next question was, performance metrics for CM proxy number of sessions. Does documentation include recommended load balancer configuration or F5 load balancer?
Yeah, so we have some documentation around the configuration and some recommendations for it. And I will tell you, from a performance perspective, it's more around how many concurrent sessions can an individual proxy support. And so the recommendation is, if you have, and this is also if you have recording on, right? So if you have session recording turned on, we would support, each proxy would support up to 100 concurrent sessions per proxy. So if you feel that, the size of your user base, if you might exceed that, then I think you should consider adding a second proxy server.
Okay, great. I don't see any other questions right now.
Okay, I will ask a question if some of our current customers are thinking about this. So, one question might be, so Mike, you just talked about adding session recording capabilities as part of this new release. Well, we had session recording capabilities in the previous release. What is the difference? The difference is what we've added in is the session recording specifically for sessions that are launched through that proxy server. Right? This is a configuration option. So if you're a customer, you can choose to use this configuration or not. If you choose not to use the configuration, we still have that session recording that was available in the previous release, and that session recording obviously is still supported. So you can continue to use your configuration, your session recording, as you do today. Again, this is one additional option for you, and we feel that it's increasing the overall security that you have within your environment, and we've layered in the session recording for compliance purposes on top of that.
So I don't see any other questions in there. If anyone has a question, again, you can unmute your line by pressing #6 or *6, or you can press the phone icon with a question mark, and I'll unmute your line for you. Another question from Eric. Okay, where can the PowerPoint be found? I will post a link to that in the chat window. We're going to post it to the security community, but I will also follow up with everyone who attended this webcast via email with a link to the recording as well as the slides. All right. Does anyone else have any other questions for Mike while we have him here on the line today? You can ask anything about Privileged Identity Manager. And like I said, if you think of a question later, feel free to post it to the CA security community. I've posted a link in the chat window.
Great. Sounds like we don't have any more questions. I'd like to thank everyone for their time today. As Kristen said, we will make sure that this PowerPoint is available on the community site, and I believe she's already posted it in the chat window, the link to it. So if you do have any additional questions, feel free to reach out to us directly. Happy to answer them.
Great. Thank you so much, Mike. I really appreciate you presenting today. This is great, and look forward to chatting with everyone about this more in the community.
Great. Thanks, everyone.
Have a great week.